Hey everyone, I'm doing my John Maxwell now. I joined the call with Roddy this morning and that went fine, it was good. So for today's chapter, I'm focusing on Esther and Mordecai and the follow through. The chapter is Esther 8, 1 to 14, and it's basically focusing on how Queen Esther saved the lives of her people, the Jewish people, with Mordecai and King Xerxes. The questions for today, the first question is, you read how Esther approached King Xerxes and exposed the plot of Haman, who was then executed by the king's order. Why didn't that solve the problem exposed by Mordecai and Esther? So the plan or the plot to defeat the Jews and to kill Queen Esther's family had already gone out to all the provinces. So it wasn't something that was just within the walls of the citadel. It had gone out, and the scriptures tell us it had gone all the way from India to Kush. It's the same as when I went on my trip. Every airport I went to, I had to hear, "Oh, that's her, Eddie likes her," from the security guards. And of course it was frightening me because I was like, what the hell is happening? Imagine if you're going from Canada, you land at Heathrow, then you go to Zimbabwe, then you go to South Africa, and at each airport you have to hear this. And you have no idea who this person is and what's happening and why all the police in the world have been notified. And you're like, what the hell? I'm an independent woman, I'm traveling on my own, and I'm used to it. And everywhere I go, I'm being treated like this. I mean, this is the kind of thing that happened to Esther. So her people and her family were under attack. So that's why it wasn't enough that even though the plot had been exposed, they couldn't stop it. It had gone out from India to Kush to destroy the Jews, and it had to be reversed in all the king's provinces, not just where they were, but everywhere that this had gone on, it had to be reversed. So the second question is based on what was described in the edict. How thorough was Mordecai's solution to the problem? Describe the contingencies he took into account. He was very thorough in his plans, and they asked the king to make sure that this would be reversed. And what King Xerxes did is, because Haman had attacked the Jews, he gave his estate to Esther, and they ended his life. They had him impaled on a pole, and he was set up on this. And then he had a decree written in his name and on behalf of the Jews. He told them they could do this, and to be sealed with his signature. So this, when something is sealed with the king's signature, it shows that it holds importance, and it shows that it has his authority behind it. No document written in the king's name and sealed with his ring can be revoked. That's what the scripture tells us. And then it does tell us that all the secretaries were summoned on the 23rd day of the third month, in the month of Sivan. So there's precise dates that it's given. They wrote out all the orders that Mordecai gave to the satraps, governors, and nobles of the 127 provinces stretching from India to Kush. And the script was written in each province and in the language that was spoken in that province. So somebody couldn't say, "No, I didn't understand what you meant. I didn't think that was what you meant." It went out in all the languages. So that's a contingency plan. And it was sent by horse, the fastest means possible at the time. It wasn't sent by ship. It wasn't sent in any other way but the horse, the power of the horse, as quickly as possible. And then the third one, what was King Xerxes' contribution to solving this problem? It was his authority because it was done in his name, not in the name of the Jews. So the people had to obey it because it was coming from the highest authority. And it carried weight and authority. I mentioned that already. And then the fourth question, how much of a team effort was needed in solving the problem the Jews faced? Could it have been solved without Xerxes, Esther, or Mordecai? So it couldn't have, because they each played a part. Esther as queen had to speak up for her people. The king had to give his authority, and Mordecai had to make sure that it was carried out the way the king wanted it to be. When Esther asked, she didn't just ask for herself, she asked for her people. So it's the same thing as when we do our volunteering. When I volunteer and I ask for funding for Africa, or I ask for something for the church, I'm not just doing it for myself and my family. I'm doing it for the community. I'm doing it for the Zimbabwe community, the Catholic community, but I'm doing it for us Christians, the same way other people do it for their communities and their families. So it's important to remember that Esther did her part. She asked for her people. Mordecai wrote in the name of the king, and Xerxes supported it. He gave his authority. It went out as law in every province to people of all nationalities. It was issued in the citadel of Susa, so they could protect themselves. The Jews were given the right to protect themselves, to destroy, kill, and annihilate the armed men of any nationality or province who might attack them and their women and children, and to plunder the property of their enemies. So that was the authority given, because they were the ones that invaded and they hurt the Jews. And so that's what's happening now in Ukraine. That's what's happening now where we had the rebels go in. Hamas had gone in to territory that wasn't theirs, taken women, raped them, abducted people from a party. So it's very similar. And then I just answered him here that this law went out to every province, to people of all nationality. It was issued in the citadel of Susa, so they could protect themselves. So what is a citadel? A citadel is a capital. It's an enclosed, fortified area. And this was the capital of the Persian Empire, so it was very important. The city is where the administrative and political hub was, and it was known for its silk, sugarcane, and oranges, and a fortified structure, so it's important. Now, this wasn't in the scripture, but I looked it up because I wanted to learn a little more. So it just goes to show how the problem solving took place and how the women leaders in the Bible were important. The same way we are important today. If we are spiritual directors, or if we hold positions where we can influence, where we can volunteer, all of us are important, and we all have a voice to use. And we can do it for our own communities first, and then for others. Because we come together on common grounds. We come together working towards common aims. But that doesn't take away from our religion. It doesn't take away from who we are and what we are doing. And it's important to remember that in today's political climate for me. When you look at what's happening in Ukraine, when you look at what's happening with Hamas, it's important to remember it. Because don't forget, we live through that. We live through people just coming in, invading our properties, taking women and children, raping, killing, destroying, burning properties. And we have a responsibility. I mean, it took courage for me to talk to the VIT students at the request of the South African Consulate General to say, he came to tell me, please talk to them because this riffraff from Cape Town is coming into Wits and they're encouraging them to skip exams, to protest during exams, to burn the buildings. So I said, I can talk to them, but whether they're going to listen to me or not is a different story. Because first of all, I'm living in Canada. I went to university a long time ago. And secondly, I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm not, it's not like I get to go home every year like the UCT rep. So I spoke to them and they did listen and they got the riffraff off the campus. And we didn't have all those same problems that Wits had with demonstrations during exams and burning buildings and all of that. So it's good. I did something good. It's nice that they respected me enough to listen to me. But of course it took courage on my part because I could have been rejected. They could have said, oh, we're not listening to you. You're living here in Canada. We don't care what you think. But they were intelligent enough and they were good enough to listen to what I was saying. So I never saw them after that. They wanted me to come out to a dinner with them, but unfortunately it didn't work out. And this is some years back now. But that I'm just giving an example of how we can use our voices and what we can do. And South Africa is not like here. I mean, over there the campus is very much mixed. All religions get together, we do things together, we are friends of all religions. And I was happy when I went home to see that Wits is still that way. I hope it stays that way. But we do have a responsibility to help to solve problems for our communities. And that includes Zimbabwe. It doesn't mean because I'm living here that I forget about Zimbabwe. I don't. I obviously want it to come up because one day when I retire, I want to go and live there. I don't want to stay here in this cold. It's very cold. I mean, every day, almost every day we have snow. So we'll see what happens. But that's just an example for us to think about. And if people want to organize small groups, if there's an opportunity for me to speak, to be able to use my skills and earn a living in ministry, then I'd love to hear about it. And please do contact me because I'm out of work. And I have never had a paid position as a spiritual director or using my ministry skills. So it's something that I'm interested in. I'm also continuing to apply for executive assistant jobs, administrative roles, because the thing is with anxiety, when there's pressure on you, it flares up. So I'm trying not to go back into a situation where I'm going to be under extreme pressure like the call center, because I don't want that anymore. I don't want to be sworn at and shouted at and all the things I went through for 5 years and be told just do your job. So we'll see. We'll continue to pray and to put our trust in the Lord, and I hope this helps you. It's good to think about the scriptures and to think about where it was situated, what the territory was like, what people were dealing with, not just to read it and say, okay, that's what they did. So that's what I try to do, and that's what I help others to enter into when we reflect on scripture together.